All right, everyone. So you all have seen this guy around a few times. We've interviewed him several times, and I hope you've seen him out at air shows because he's been selling airplanes and designing aircraft for a long time. James, introduce yourself, and we'll get going on the hot topic of today.
Hey, good morning, Brian. I am James Wiebe with Radiant Instruments, and I've been involved in experimental and ultralight aircraft since 2008. And after 16 years, if I can do the math, I think that almost makes me an old timer in the world of aviation. I love being in aviation. I've been flying since I was a teenager. So there you
Yeah,
go.
there you go. All right. So the reason why we're talking here today, James is always a creative and has new ideas that just won't stop, right? So he has something that he's calling SCARP, and I just realized this morning you couldn't call it SCAR because that probably wouldn't do very good for marketing. So you had to add the P for project. But explain what SCARP is.
Sure. SCARP is, excuse me, SCARP stands for Software Controlled Aviation Receiver Project. I've been selling radios, aviation radios for, I don't know, 3 years now. We've sold well over 900 radios. And through that period of time, so many times it's like, wouldn't it be better if the user experience had the ability to listen to more channels, or wouldn't it be better if the unit had more sensitivity? Or probably one of the biggest is, wouldn't it be better if the receiver really did well with squelch so you didn't have to mess with that? So after thinking about it for the last, I don't know, 2.5 years, last year I got serious about designing a receiver, and I came up with a project that can monitor at least 8 aviation channels at the same time. And aviation, first and foremost, this is about it being an aviation receiver, not a broad spectrum software defined radio, not a ham radio. It had to be good for aviation, or I really wasn't interested in designing it. So I just put myself to it and started working on it.
And to me, when you told me about it, the first thing that came to my mind, and correct me if I'm wrong here, is this can also be used as an audible ADSB system.
That You said that, and I think I nailed you back in a text. That was absolutely, that was when I saw the creative genius of you nailing what it was that I was trying to do in one sentence. That is absolutely correct. ADSB for audio is what this really is.
So
Uh,
instead of the computer doing the work and putting up a graphic on your screen, you can audibly listen to the traffic and what
yes,
airports people are calling out to know, where they're at
yeah,
several locations in the
yeah.
area.
Both in the air and really on the ground. So my base is a glider port that's about 5 miles from my house, but it happens to be nestled between three busy general aviation airports. I've got Jabara Airport, Beach Field Airport, and Stearman Field Airport, and the glider port is really set in the middle of that triangle. So if you're sitting there, or if you're in the pattern at at my glider port, you don't want to be in a situation of having to twist the dial to try and figure out what's going on. So with this device, with SCARP, I can have a background monitor on all three of the patterns, and then for bonus points, then I can add in Wichita approach low and high, and so that means that I can have 5 channels of communication coming in on a typical day. You'll hear Wichita Approach chime in, then you'll hear Unicom from Jabara chime in, and suddenly you'll hear Beach Tower chime in. Each communication finishes. You end up with this fantastic field of situational awareness as to what's going on. So I think it is a game changer for how we listen to aviation radio. And I've really been pleased with how it has worked out as I've gone through the process of developing it.
Yeah, I love the concept of it, and just a full transparency there, right? This is a concept with the prototype that he's got here, and he's at the stage he's doing it right. I feel where he's got this new idea, he's figured it out, and now it's time to come to market with it, and he's doing a Kickstarter. A lot of people do Kickstarters just to fund the idea and then to do the research. That's all been done, and now he's pretty much ready to bring this to market. But what's it's interesting to me is that yeah, you can scan the channels, you know, around you or whatnot. But he explained to me, because my biggest concern is that, as everybody knows, when you're in the pattern, you got multiple airports within several miles around you. They all share the same Unicom frequency, and people are stepping on each other, so you get this garbled mess all the time. And like, well, especially if you now have 8 channels you're trying to listen to, how do you get through that to just not have it be noise? James, you want to explain how that works real quick?
Sure. So the receiver itself, or the SCARP, let's just assume that no one is transmitting. It goes through and it listens to all of these channels. It's scanning very roughly 100 channels a second. And as soon as someone starts transmitting, let's say it's Unicom over at Jabara, you hear it. And it'll be someone making a pattern announcement. You know, I'm downwind for 3-6. And as soon as they drop off, SCARP goes back to scanning. Now, Beach Tower, someone that's a different frequency. Someone's over there, even though the patterns, they provide warnings all the time that you have to be familiar because all this stuff overlaps. You hear someone at beach, and it's like that transmission will come on the instant it drops, then it starts scanning. And then you might hear McConnell or Wichita Approach talking about a KC-135. Their pattern goes over everything, and we pay attention to those because those are running, I think, at 3,000 feet, maybe 4,000 feet. They're just above the traffic patterns over this whole general area. You'll hear them talking to Approach, and that'll drop. So you just get this cadence. And yes, you might pick up a conversation in the middle. So for instance, if it drops at Jabara, the transmission stops, and then you hear the KC-135, but you only hear mid. But as you listen to things, your mind is just knitting together what's happening in the airspace around you. And suddenly it's not a confusing mess. What it is, oh, that's Kanza 42, Kanza 42. It's a KC-135. And now I'm aware that there's 2 of them in the pattern at McConnell. There's a guy over at Stearman flying his Stearman. And of course, we're at the glider port. So it sounds like it might be confusing. In reality, it's eye-opening and fun at the same time to see just how much is going on around you.
All right, I'm gonna pop in here real quick to talk about our sponsors. As you know, I can't do this all on my own. We got to have somebody to help fuel that truck. We try really hard to work with sponsors that provide a good service and a good quality product. So let's talk about those guys right now. Dynon Avionics at Dynon.com, the premier provider of glass panel avionics systems for experimental and light sport aircraft. Wide Open Door Company at WideOpenDoorCo.com, your premier destination for high-quality doors, including aircraft hangar doors. Warp Drive Propellers at WarpDriveInc.com, providing quality, solid carbon fiber propellers for many light sport and experimental aircraft. And visit our website at experimentalaircraftchannel.com for new videos and easy-to-navigate playlists and so much more. Speaking of fueling that truck, if you guys want to join us on our Patreon page, become patrons of this channel, just search on Patreon for Experimental Aircraft Channel. Sign up. There's several different levels, so check that out. So just to put it in real simple terms, even though there's 8 channels, you're not listening to 8 channels at once as he described it. It's actually grabbing one and hanging on to that one until it stops, or you've got an option to be what would you say, delete or disregard and move it to next, correct?
Yeah. If something's happening with a particular channel and it's starting to annoy you, let's just say that there's too much coming from Wichita Approach on 134.85, and you don't care anymore because you realize that he's working traffic that's out over the Eureka Springs MOA, which is a ways away. The unit, the way that I've designed it, I put a single button for each channel. So if a channel is distracting or annoying, or for whatever reason you don't want to scan it, you just touch the button. that particular frequency goes to red, which simply means you're not going to receive it anymore. So in essence, you can streamline it from being an 8 channel to a 7 to a 5 to a 2, or for that matter, if you just want to listen to one channel, you can turn them all off. But the general concept was to allow as much communication as possible. People have asked for enhancements, and I'm listening to my Kickstarter. An example would be is that when you're done with one channel, rather than just resuming the scanning, I'm going to add priority back in so that priority goes back to your first channels, and that also will help you stay focused on what's important to you. So
Because to
in my
me,
area, yeah, we'd probably put Jabari Unicom at top of the list because they are literally right next door to the glider port.
yeah, so to me, that's kind of the beauty of it, to be able to listen on a certain frequency, and that guy's like, you realize he's really far away and he's on downwind, so like he's no conflict to me. So like I'm gonna hush that one and go to the next scan. And this airport is kind of along the path of my path to the next airport, and this guy is kind of like circling the airport, so that one is of interest to me. And let's talk about that for a second. So if I do find one that I do like, rather than it scan, can you hit the same button you said turns red? Can you lock onto that so it doesn't go away after he's done talking?
Let's call that a Kickstarter request.
Okay.
That's exactly. I love it. For years, this is how I do product development. I throw an idea out, and people come back and say, "Can it do this?" And it's like, I haven't thought about that. Hey, that's a really good idea. Let's do it. So, yeah, we can certainly do that.
Well, I
Uh,
guess you're seeing, what frequency it is because it's scanning this and telling you, boom, it locked here, right? So if
yep.
you find something interesting, you could put that up as a backup frequency and then switch over to it to follow it. But just, yeah, okay, interesting.
Yeah. So, any good ideas that come out, I pay attention to all of them, and we put the good ideas into it. There's a couple of other interesting things that I'm playing with, some promises that I've made out in the Kickstarter. One of the things that I want to demonstrate, and this is a little off topic, but occasionally you hear people that are transmitting, and there's something wrong. Their transmitter may be off, especially older radios that don't have that have drifted. And one of the things that I want to be able to do with this is to take an off frequency transmitter and then retune SCARP in real time so that it locks onto to the guy's transmitter frequency. Um, and in
So
other
in other
words,
words, where it's kind of supposed to be at 122.8 and it's kind of slipping to 122.9 or somewhere in the
yeah,
middle, and it can still grab that and get it more clearly.
yeah, the difference that you say there, 22.8 to 22.9, it's more like it's 122.8 to 122.803.
Okay.
Uh, but we can go in and grab that. And another thing too, we're already native to European frequency spacing, 8.33 kilohertz. So that if for some reason, I've really yet to see a US 8.33 offset frequency, but we support that completely. We can tune down to any frequency that you want to play with.
Interesting. So we talked about kind of the functionality and the main purpose and concept behind this. Let's talk about what this looks like, and not only now, but like in production. Like, what is your
Sure.
idea for getting this out, and what are the options for having it in your aircraft?
Sure. Uh, I'm glad you asked that. When I went to market with the Kickstarter, what I did was I made it plain that we don't have the thing in a case. And so everybody who's participated in the Kickstarter understands that. And someone popped their hand up right away and said, could I help with the case? The case really isn't the point, not a big deal. What you're really asking then is what is the product roadmap for SCARP as we move down the road? And I want to share a couple of things. So the first thing, obviously, is the case. We're going to end up with something that's in the neighborhood of 2.5 inches by 2 inches. That's just a tiny little scanner receiver. The second piece of the roadmap, I'm taking input on the transmit side. I've never discussed the transmit side, But the dirty little secret of radio frequency design is that it's a lot easier to design a transmitter than it is to design a receiver. So I'm seeing if people have an interest in adding a transmit function onto it. The third thing is that I want to drop the technology into either a 2 1/4 or 3 1/8 inch standard hole, so that you can populate it into the panel of an experimental aircraft. That would be on the sooner range. That is, let's get that into the market yet this year. And when we do that, that will be a standardized product from Radiant. I don't think I can come anywhere close to getting that done for the Kickstarter. That portion of it would fall under the Radiant brand and probably end up being available from us or from Aircraft Spruce. Then with that, if you look 2 years down the road, I would like to get that legally installed in general aviation aircraft because I think it's just a phenomenal thing for situational awareness. And to that end, I've started to do really good research into how I can legally get this installed. And the answer is I can get it installed if I meet a TSO, a technical standard order. That's hard. I can also get it installed if I create a supplemental type certificate, an STC. That's hard too, but not quite as hard. I have a copy of both the TSO and the technical requirements for radio. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I'm moving down the road to making a product that can be installed in the panel of a 172 and plug into your receiver into your audio panel and allow you to monitor in background all this stuff while you're flying your airplane without having to use a handheld thing at all. So that's really the roadmap for the product for the next couple of years. I really want to use it as something that enhances the stature of Radiant, the company, into the industry.
Then what we talked off camera on the phone when you first brought this to my attention. What would it take to have this as, I'm not sure what exactly you call it, as a remote unit that would interact with like an LCD, touchscreen or whatnot to be able
Oh,
to turn.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that the Kickstarter allows people to do is to control this thing through a serial interface or a USB port for that matter. So I've also been imagining other ways to use the product in conjunction in an experimental panel with flat screen displays. That's stated right there in the Kickstarter that someone's going to come up with an idea for how to use this thing, as I'm going to call it, a receiver head. There's a couple of good experimental panels that are out in the market right now. I can't think of the name. I found one out of Europe, and I found one here locally in the U.S. So
It's your product would be capable, but it would require the manufacturer, let's say Radiant or Dynon or whoever, to do a
yeah,
software change to be able to connect and react,
yeah.
buttons on the screen, whatever else to do
Yeah,
that.
you picked on it. Dynon would be an excellent candidate for doing something like that. Uh, Garmin isn't an excellent candidate because they already have embedded glass that does exactly that. But this allows the experimental people to chase after the vision of Garmin, which produces a premium product in the market.
Okay. And just people are already, I'm sure, like, what talk price point here. I know you haven't nailed that down, but you have a general idea of what to expect to get this, and what does
Yeah.
that look like?
Well, on the Kickstarter, I think the basic radio frequency module is priced at $49. So that's an experimental special for people who want to play with it. Then that ranges all the way up to $139 on the Kickstarter for what amounts to a complete miniature system comprised of a screen, buttons, display, processor, Arduino, radio frequency receiver board. Beyond that, I haven't set any price points for any derivative products, but it would certainly be a value competitive to the feature points that are in the product. So very, very roughly, What you see right now is priced at $139 on the Kickstarter for a complete bundle. There's going to be some enhancements to that, and hopefully we'll be able to bring competitive products to the market at not much more than that at some point in the future.
And then, of course, later down the road, when you attack the GA market and it's FA, PMA, it'll be 10 times that price.
100 times that price. Just kidding. Well, it is shocking. I already got a very rough quote for the amount of dollars required to independently test to see that the product meets the TSO. And people don't understand, it's like, it's going to go in general aviation. It's all because of, no, it's because of the time frames and the additional costs. Very roughly, I have to spend $20,000 on lab and engineering time to have someone prepare a report that says this thing meets a technical standard order. And
Wow.
that's assuming that it passes, and it will not pass on the first shot. Uh, what's going to be wrong? I don't know. Maybe it'll require it's the technical standard order is so detailed.
What's
I
the big deal? You test it. If there's no smoke, it's good to go, right? Or you keep this,
well,
you container it, you put it in the package so it contains the smoke.
that's right. Smoke containment device. Yeah. Well, we'll see. I think that there's yet another route that can be pursued for certification. That's something called NORC. I'm going to look into that. Non-required safety enhancement equipment.
Oh, I thought
That's
that was a language. I didn't realize that
yeah,
was
no,
certification.
yeah, those Norse guys. Um, that's a procedure that's out there. A lot of guys have used it to bring products to market. If they're significantly different and if they enhance safety, then the FAA will occasionally authorize them to be installed in panels in general aviation aircraft. So I've looked into that before, and I need to take another round at it.
Awesome. All right, everybody. So that is what's new, the newest thing coming from James Wiebe here. And we'll put a link in the video here and then in the description below this video if you want to go check out the Kickstarter, which is kind of winding down. So if you want to, he's already met, did you say 200% of your goal? So
Actually, this morning we're closing in on 300.
okay, so obviously this has high interest of people. You've went beyond your goal.
Surprising.
Yep.
That's one of the, yeah, we've got it's going to cross 300% maybe this weekend. And we're kind of stunned here that it's done as well as it has, but oh, please bring it on. This is what I live for. Let's do it some more.
Yeah, so we'll link that and check it out. And he has made several other videos. There's the main Kickstarter video, and then below that in the verbiage, there are some other links
Yeah.
describing some more functionality of it and so forth. So check out those links. And again, this is a concept, but it's ready to come to market type thing, which is like I said, this is the way to do a Kickstarter when you have a product and you're just ready to get to that final step, right? So real briefly, before we let you go here because everybody's attention span on YouTube is very short, so we try to keep these videos fairly short. What else might be in the skunk works of James Wiebe's mind that you might want to share? Because you've done a lot in aviation over the several decades.
Okay, that's a curveball, Brian. Uh,
Hey,
hey, no, that's good. In electronics, I spend a lot of time thinking about how ADSB in is done. On the Radiant side, down the road, I'm dreaming up better ways to do ADSB, uh, not audio. I really mean on the input side. So I've been thinking about that. In fact, I was thinking about that concurrently. I just didn't have enough bandwidth to do two projects at once.
right.
And then uh, my little curveball back at you is for the last 2.5 years, I have been working on the scratch design and build of a carbon fiber ultralight aluminum honeycomb airplane. Uh, and I every year it's like it's going to get done this year. So I'm no longer commercially involved in any sort of aviation or the aircraft design. But this is my private little baby, and someday I'm going to bring it out and show it to the world. So that's what I'm
Nice.
doing in aircraft. That's fun. And
Nice.
it's beautiful. It's a little Piper Cub-like thing.
Yeah. Well, we look forward to seeing that and probably all of your electronic accessories attached to it.
Yeah, that's the idea.
All right. Well, so where can people follow you now of what you're doing with Radiant and other? Where are you posting your progress and projects?
Okay. Radiantinstruments.com is always a good place to start. We have an embedded blog there, which I do keep up to date on things that I'm doing on the electronic side. Then we also have a YouTube channel, which isn't too hard to find. Man, I wish I had your subscriber base, but ours has been growing. We've crossed and moved rapidly through 3,000 subscribers as we paid attention to it, so that's fun. Uh, the um, so in addition to YouTube, Facebook, we have found just over and over that we're able to connect with people through our work on Facebook, and we have a Facebook page there as well. But really, we use it for outbound marketing more than we do talking about our stuff. And so, any of those ways, go to the website, go to my blog, uh, and you can explore and find out what it is that I'm working on.
Okay, so are you bringing Radiant to any air shows, or is this mostly just online right now? Like we see you at Oshkosh, or
I skipped Sun and Fun. Didn't have anything ready to announce. It didn't make any sense to be there. So we skipped Sun and Fun. I'm planning to attend Oshkosh Air Venture as a private individual. I'm not planning to have a booth, but if anyone reaches out to me and wants to see or talk about anything, I'd love to meet people face to face at Oshkosh and show them what I'm doing. I don't know exactly which days that I'm going to be there, but I love AirVenture. So that's the one that I'm planning to get to.
yeah, it's the best time of year to go buy a brand new pair of walking shoes every year.
Yeah, that's right. And hope they don't get muddy.
Right, right. All right, James. Well, thanks for reaching out and sharing what you're doing there. I love to hear new things that are happening in aviation and share with the community what's going on there because that's what this is all about. Especially this segment of aviation is still the fastest growing and most popular because we can do all these custom things. I kind of look at it as the racing world of aviation because in cars and racing, a lot of that technology that is tried there ends up making it into production in the real world of automotive. And I believe the same thing in this industry is the same deal. We're seeing a lot of different suspension stuff happening with the STOL side of things, and the go fast airplanes. There's things happening with engines, so it's kind of like Formula One or Indy, stretching their legs out there.
You got it.
All right, everybody. So thanks for watching here and getting the update with James. We'll see you in the next episode.